All righty then. So we are back and we are live. So hopefully the sounds better. I'm using my laptop now instead of my desktop. I guess I got an old desktop, so you know. Anyway, screw it. We'll do the intro again. Why not? Welcome back to the show. And here we go.
It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
Hey guys, we are back. So yeah, I was using my desktop to try to do this show, but clearly my desktop is old and was not able to do proper signal today. So I am now back to using my laptop. So just let me know in the chat if you're able to actually hear me, because they said in the last one my audio was breaking up pretty badly. So if that's the case, then let me know. But other than that, I believe I am back. Let me just pull up some stuff from I'll just pull up here. Screw it. Okay, so we will continue on. So as I said, guys, the show is ultimately about you. So if you guys have any questions you want me to answer, then simply leave them in the chat, and I will be happy to answer those as well. So I'm going to see if I can leave this in the previous one real quick. Let's see. StreamYard. So I'm going to leave this link in the previous thing for other people to see. Oh, this one's already done. Okay, cool. All right. So anyway, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into the main crux of the show, which is talking about, will women break their dating rules? So I want to start off by reading a couple of comments that some women left in my chat this week. So here's the thing, is that I have women viewers that occasionally watch my show, and sometimes they'll see the things that I'm talking about and they'll disagree with it and want to leave comments in the chat about how they're not like that, or how, well, if I was this way, then I would react this way and blah, 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 or I wouldn't do this thing for a guy or whatever. And so I want to talk about that. So there were a couple of comments that were left in my comment boxes this week under some videos. So there was a woman that left a comment under my "Will she move on if you don't kiss her on the first date" video. And I was talking about how you don't necessarily need to kiss a woman on the first date in order for her to be interested in you, or for her to actually like go forth with subsequent dates, right? And so there's a woman that left a comment that said, this is also very person dependent. I am slower and would need to meet someone many, many times to get physical. If a guy tried to kiss me on the first date, it would make me actually uncomfortable. Like, dude, I just met you. But for some, it is okay. And then a guy responded, if you don't want to be kissed by the dude on the first date, it just means you don't like him enough. Therefore, time to move on. Now, I don't always believe that, but it points to, she's saying, I'm the kind of woman who, if a guy ever tried to kiss me on a first date, then I'd be out of here. How dare a guy try that? I would never be the kind of girl that would let a guy kiss me on a first date. So that was the first one. And then another woman comment under my video, she never initiates text. Is she pulling away? And that's a video where I said that basically if guys have this fear of, like, if a woman's not initiating text to them, that it means that she's starting to lose interest. And really could just mean that you're texting her too much, and that if you start to back away, then you'll find that women who have a high interest in you will in fact start initiating more text. And so this woman commented and said, if I said the last word in texting, meaning that she sent the last text, it's his turn. I'm a woman. I like the man to lead. Now, granted, I'll give her this, that I always tell guys that ultimately texting is a thing that's like a tennis match. When she sends one over, then you send one back. And ideally, it'll be like a back and forth situation. But that said, she's saying that as the woman, she likes the man to lead, and therefore she would never be the one to initiate a text. If she said the last word, she would never double text, and she would never try to reignite a conversation by texting him first. How dare she? Would never. And so here's what I say, guys. It's not that I think women are well-meaning, and I think that when they're saying these things, they feel as though what they're saying is true. They feel that they would never text the guy first. They feel like they would have rejected a guy who tried to kiss them on the first date. They feel like that would be their actual response. And what I'm here to tell you is that is absolutely false. Because here's the thing. It's one thing for a woman, it's one thing for you to ask a woman how she would respond to a hypothetical guy doing hypothetical things that she's not currently experiencing in the moment. So if you ask a woman in the moment, hey, if you go out with a guy on a first date, would you allow him to kiss you first? Would you allow him to kiss you on that first date? And her response is, oh, I wouldn't do that. I would think he was too forward. And I would be like, I need more time to get to know him. I would never do that. Well, she's responding because she feels as though that's how she would react based on a guy that you're talking about that she's never met and that she's not had time to actually talk to and that she hasn't spent a night building chemistry with and being able to smell him and feel him in a real setting to where when those things are happening, the reaction would actually be a little bit different, okay? And that's what I want to point out to you guys is that women will break their dating rules if they have high interest in you. And for those of you younger guys here that maybe have not experienced what a woman having full-on high interest in you feels like, I will tell you that when a woman has high interest, any rules that she set up about the kind of guy she's going to date or what she will or won't do in the dating process or how long she's going to make guys wait to do certain things when she's out dating them, all those things are going to go out the window when a guy comes along that completely knocks her socks off, rocks her world, has everything that she's asking for on her list, and it will make her trip up and be like, it'll make her really reconsider how strongly she needs to hold to this list. All right. So I'm going to just give you a listing of just a few examples of dating rules that women have that they will break if they find a guy that they're highly interested in. And a lot of things on this list are also based on personal experiences of dating women who had certain things on their list that when it came to me, they're willing to overlook altogether. All right. So for starters, women have this thing of saying that they will never chase a man. They don't chase men. It's the guy's job to pursue. How dare he think that she should chase after him? And yet, there are plenty of videos out there of, like, for example, women at the gym that are going up to a guy and trying to start a conversation or saying, hey, I just want you to know, I think you're handsome or cute. I've been to plenty of parties whereby I'm minding my own freaking business and women are like walking around me and trying to come up to me and saying, hey, what's going on, stranger, or whatever. Like, and I think also it's important to note that a lot of the ways in which women are going to approach isn't going to be the way in which men think that a woman should approach. So what that means is that you're thinking her approaching would be like coming up to you saying, hi, handsome, we should go out sometime. Here's my number. But what it's going to actually look like is you're standing at a party and all of a sudden you just kind of see this one woman that's just kind of like orbiting around you and kind of like maybe walking behind you and then walking back this way towards you and then maybe like walking up to the same food stand that you're at to get food at the same time that you are. Like, it doesn't seem like it to a guy, but that's her approaching. That is her chasing after you. And when a woman sees you and you have the right stats in her head that she's thinking, oh my God, he's got the right look, the right build, he smells good, all this other stuff. Trust me, a woman that used to be like, I would never chase a guy, will be trying to do everything she can to put herself in your orbit so you notice her, even if it means having to come up to you and start a random conversation like, hey, where's the bathroom? Or, hey, have you tried this food? I was thinking of getting it, but like blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's her chasing after you, guy. And that stuff will emphatically happen if she has high interest. Another example is women have this thing. Well, I heard so many women say, I would never, ever date a guy that doesn't have a car. Like, if he has no vehicles, how is he going to pick me up? I want to feel like the woman. I want a guy to drive me places. Hogwash. I went 4 years in California without a car. And I assure you during that time, my dating life was plentiful and plenty of women were more than happy to either pick me up or meet me somewhere. And I would just get there by way of bus. Like, they just cared that I wasn't trying to use them for their mode of transportation. And I wouldn't. I'd be like, hey, I'd catch a bus. I can get a ride from a friend. Like, I don't need you to pick me up. But just the fact that I was able to do that, me not having a car was now no longer a barrier for her to not date me. Okay. So all those women that are like, oh, you got to have a car. Again, if she has high interest, she will break that rule. Another rule, texting men first. Here's the thing you got to understand, guy. Women don't come across guys every day that they have a high interest in and they get plenty of attention, but not a lot of guys actually like really want to, like it doesn't really tickle their fancy. So when they meet a guy that is actually what she wants, then she's going to do what she can do to make sure that you know that she has high interest, including breaking her rule of I would never reach out, and she'll be the one to text you first after a date. Just wanted to say thanks again for that date. I had a really good time, because she wants you to know that she had a good time and that her contacting you is indicative of her trying to show further interest beyond just that date. Or her being like, hey, I'm just at work today. I'm just thinking about how you're doing. Like, some of you guys haven't seen that because you're so busy thinking you got to text all the time that you're not really looking at the fact that women will actually reach out to you if you are patient enough to see that that can actually happen. If you're not doing that, then that means that you're probably doing way too much early on in terms of you texting her, and you need to stop it. But because if you find out if you're texting less, they will start to text you more. So lay off the texting. Another thing, women will date a man that is significantly older and or younger than her. And I stress this because there are plenty of women that if you ask them head on, hey, you're 30 years old, would you date a 50-year-old? They're going to tell you, oh, no, disgusting, 20 years my senior, oh my God. Until they meet that 50-year-old who seems a little more younger and vibrant and can support her and can drive her places and can fly her places and can be really good in the bedroom and is not going to be, stressing over her all the time doing various things. Then it's like, oh, so now that I'm in the scenario and I'm seeing how this 50-year-old man is treating me and he's a real thing, then I can make this work. There are plenty of Hollywood starlets that get married to dudes that are like 20, 30, 40, 50 years older. And I know I use celebrity examples because they're the easiest to see, but that also happens in real life. There are real 50 and 60-year-old guys that are dating 25 and 30-year-olds and getting them and wifing them up. Why? Because when it came to actually interacting with the guy, her rules of dating these way older guys go out the window. Same thing for women that are like, oh my God, I'm 40. I'd never date a guy that's 25 because what would my friends say? Until she meets that 25-year-old guy that's able to rock her world and knock her socks off and is making her feel like her youthful self again, then yeah, she's going to break her rule and do that stuff. Okay. Other things here. Let's see. Getting physical faster. There are plenty of women out there that are like, I have a 90-day rule and I would never, ever, ever get with a guy unless we get to the 90-day mark of dating. And then, and only then, will I hook up with him. But yeah, unless he's like a guy that is just oozing sex appeal and the girl recognizes that, oh my God, he could probably get any woman to sleep with him. If I don't do it soon, somebody else definitely will. And now she's got a decision to make. And that decision is, does she now break her rule and sleep with this guy, even though it's only been a day, a week, 2 weeks, a month? And more often than not, the answer is going to be yes. She's going to break that rule. Another rule, dating someone with a different religion. Ooh, you got like a Christian girl that meets this Hindu guy, this Jewish guy, and is thinking, oh, my family, we're heavy, hardcore Christian. And if I bring somebody home that's not that religion, it's going to be some kind of thing. Yeah. Until she interacts with them and realizes that his religion has some valid points that she hadn't thought about before. And also, again, really good time in the sack, made her laugh, listens to her. Because see, here's the thing, is that the tactile experience of meeting this other person and having him feel certain things is going to allow her to now want to adjust what she felt was a hardcore rule and be able to say, you know what? Is that a thing I have to stick to? I mean, ultimately, I'm in charge of what these rules are. So if I decide that this rule should no longer be a rule, then that's totally fine. I'll do that. And they'll do that, including for people that have a different religion, if she feels so inclined to do so. Another thing, dating a broke guy. Many women are like, I don't want to date a guy that's broke or has no money. I've been a broke guy. I've been a guy that was on somebody's couch and was still able to date women. I've been a guy that was living in his car and still able to date women. Like across the board, if you're making women feel the way that she wants to feel in a relationship, then, and granted, your money should, you should definitely get your money up. But I'm saying, don't think that that's a barrier to entry, because when she has high interest, she's going to overlook that and then also make excuses for why you don't have money and say, he's just getting himself together and I know he's going to make it one day and I want to stick by him and help him. So even that ends up being something that's not such a detriment when she has high interest. Another thing here is, another dating, women will actually change their mind about whether or not they want kids or not if they have a high interest. And I know this because as I got a vasectomy, I had times where women that I was dating, they initially expressed wanting to have kids, and then they come across me where I'm like, I can't give you kids. And they continue to date me for a long period of time until I ended it. And so what that says is that women live on this plane of depending on how the guy's making me feel, I'm going to be willing to adjust certain things. And so that's another thing of like, the rule of like, well, if I want kids and he doesn't want kids and I can't date him, well, that's not a hard, fast rule when you're making her feel all these other things that make her think, you know what, if I just went through life with this guy and it was just us, he treats me so well, I would totally do that. Like they won't change their mind about that. Now, I will say this, do not go into these dating situations assuming that if you want kids or don't want kids and she wants the opposite, that you can make it work. Like, don't ever assume that. I'm just telling you that women will be willing to break that rule, but that doesn't mean you should expect that to happen. All right. Another thing, proposing. Women have this hard, fast rule, like I would never propose to a guy if we're in a long-term relationship and he wants to marry me. Like it's masculine for the guy to get on the knee and ask for the woman, and the woman doing it is just too blah blah blah. I know so many couples who got married because the woman in part said, well, we should get married, or are we going to do this marriage thing? Or, hey, let me give you a ring. My mom and my dad, they got married because he got back from being in Korea for like a year and a half and came back and was like, hey, I'm moving to California. Do you want to move? And her response was, well, I'm not going to just move out there and be somebody's girlfriend. The only way I'll do that is if we were to get married. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then they got married. But who asked who? She brought up, we need to get married. And he just said, cool, let's do it. So, and they were married for 13 years until he died. Very happy marriage. So it's like, but again, women that have high interest will do that stuff. Now, obviously, as a guy, I'm gonna express to you that you're probably gonna want to be the one to propose. But what I'm saying is that women that have this hard, fast rule of the man's got to be the one to propose. Well, if a woman's been with a guy long enough and that's not happening, trust me, she will start saying things, mentioning things, doing things that are indicative of her wanting to get married, which means in essence, she's proposing to you. Just saying. Which also goes into number 10, which is like a rule that women have is like in a relationship, we got to have labels. If I'm the girlfriend, if we're going to be together, I got to be the girlfriend, I got to be the wife, yada, yada, yada. And there are so many women out there that will get with you and be willing to not have a title just because you treat them so well. All right. So what I'm saying is that all these hard, fast rules that women have for themselves, I got news for you, guy. When they have high interest, they will break their own rules because as infamously Doc Love used to say, high interest level cuts everything for a woman. Women don't come across guys that they're highly interested in every day. So when she comes across you and gets highly interested, all these rules that she has for herself that you think are so like prominent are going to fall to the wayside. Okay. And guys that are in relationships more often than not have experiences. They've experienced, like I have, for example, friends of mine I went to college with that are what I call short kings, like they're 5'6", 5'7" guys. And most women across the board have a rule: I'm not dating short guys. I would never date a guy that's under 6 feet. Man, these women, these guys that I'm friends with have girlfriends and wives that are like 5'11" and taller, like because they were able to see that how he treated her was more important than this rule she had about height, and that guys that were her height or taller weren't treating her as good. Okay, and this all goes back to the thing about feelings, right? Is that ultimately how you make a woman feel and your interactions with her are going to be a more determining factor for her about whether or not she sees you as potentially the person she gets with, more so than these arbitrary rules that, again, she's making these arbitrary rules based on guys that she's had no interaction with. Like she's just imagining, okay, random imaginary guy comes to me, what are my rules? And that guy, she can't smell, she can't feel, she can't interact with. It's an anomaly of a guy that I don't know, but if a guy comes along, I'm gonna have him do these rules. And until she's actually face to face with a real in-person guy that she's able to interact with and feel like, oh, he's making me feel things, but he's not. He's a broke guy, or oh, he doesn't have a car, but he's making me feel things that makes me feel like this could be a real relationship. She's gonna more often than not go on her feelings versus these arbitrary rules she made up. But why is that? Well, I could go into a litany of things that other gurus get into in terms of like, because, she has a fear of missing out, or, oh, she doesn't want to, risk, whatever, right? But I would actually go into like some of the more biological reasons why a woman would actually break her rules for you, right? I'm only going to give you guys 3 because this is already a long show. So here's the first biological reason why a woman would break her own dating rule. First reason is a neurochemical response. So basically what that is that when someone feels a strong attraction and connection, their brain releases these various chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, and these chemicals create feelings of pleasure, of bonding, and of attachment. All right. And these heightened emotional states result from these chemicals would ultimately lead a woman to disregard dating rules because she's in pursuit of these various rewarding feelings that are associated with her attraction. So if she has rules set up that are going to be barriers to her from feeling the biological response that she's having with you, then it's going to make her seriously consider if getting rid of you is going to be worth it, because getting rid of you also means getting rid of the feel goods that she's getting from the dopamine and oxytocin that has drained into her brain when she's been around you. So, for example, if you're a guy that doesn't have a car, but you met her at a party for the first time where, like, at a party, she doesn't know initially you don't have a car, right? So you're talking, making her laugh, you're being vibing. You guys might have played some group games that involved you having to kiss her or whatnot. You've made her feel really, really good. And then at the end of the night, you guys exchange numbers. And that's when she finds out, oh, you don't have a car. Well, she has a rule about not dating guys that don't have cars. But she just spent the whole night where you were making her feel all these things. The dopamine was running, the oxytocin was running, and you just made her feel so good that now she has a choice to make. And biologically, she's like, I want to feel those things again. This guy made me feel all these things that other guys don't, and I want to feel them again. Is the car thing a big deal? I guess not. So that's the first reason, biologically. The second biological reason why a woman would break her own dating rules is evolutionary instincts. So evolutionary psychology suggests that humans have developed certain instincts to enhance their chances of reproductive success. If a woman perceives a man as a potential partner who could provide protection, resources, or strong genes for her offspring, her biological drive to secure a suitable mate will override her dating rules. So she sees you, has a good time with you, and also she's looking at your muscles. She might have heard about, like, you know, the job you had. Again, we're going with the car example. You don't have a car, but maybe you just like walking, you know, but you got a job that pays like $100,000 a year, $75,000 a year. You're able to support yourself. She's able to see that you have good emotional intelligence, and all those things play into, oh, and he'd also be a good person to mate with and have kids with, because based on my interaction with him, he'd probably be great with kids. He wouldn't abuse them. He wouldn't hurt them. He'd be able to take care of them and help me raise them properly. And given how he looks, our offspring would also look really, really, really great. So now, again, do I now give that up because of the no car rule, or because, you know, maybe he's not so needy and so he's not texting me as often, so I got to text him first, but I have a rule about texting guys first? But is she going to stick to those rules when she's met you, a guy that she sees as a viable candidate to potentially have offspring with someday and then raise a really good family? Chances are biology's going to kick in. She's going to say, well, these rules aren't biology. Screw that. I'm going to get this guy. That's number two. And then the third biological reason why a woman would break her own dating rules is because influence of hormones. Hormonal changes throughout a woman's menstrual cycle can impact her behaviors and preferences. Studies suggest that during the ovulation phase, women might exhibit increased interest in pursuing short-term relationships with more attractive partners. This could lead a woman to go against her regular dating rules for a man she perceives as highly attractive during this phase. Now, what's interesting is, like they said in this one, that she might be more interested in pursuing a short-term relationship. So let's say you might not have normally been her type, right? But she's in the phase of her cycle where it's like, for whatever reason, you are just turning her on. Maybe you guys went to a party and there were like 3 guys there, like 10 women. And you're like one of the only guys there that she sees as highly attractive, and she is horny because her hormones are raging. And she's like, all right, you know what? He ain't got a car. He's broke, whatever. He looks like the kind of guy with a bang tonight. So it'll be a short-term thing, whatever. So she hooks up with you during a short-term phase of her cycle when she finds you more attractive for a short-term thing. And then the hookup's really good. Your banter afterwards is actually really witty and charming. She liked the way she felt being held in your arms. And now she's past that part of her cycle, and now there's a problem. It's that she actually really liked how that felt. And now, even though she's not part of that cycle where she's looking for short-term from you, she's like, but that felt really good. And you know what? Maybe it was a fluke. I got to see him again. Like, I know he's got no car. He's maybe broke at the moment, or he wants kids and I don't, but he just made me feel really good. You know, her hormones helped her want to get with you, and now they're helping her want to decide to stay with you. Okay, so these are just some of the many biological reasons that are out there as to why a woman that has these strong dating rules would actually change them up. So with all that said, fine, you get it. You understand now that a woman is not beholden to specific rules that she herself set up. How do you make her change her dating rules? And here, guy, I find is the honest answer to that question is that you don't. You do not forcefully try to negotiate or convince or try to make a woman see all the reasons why she should change her dating rules. What you do is become the kind of guy that women are going to be willing to break their rules for, all right? Now, I learned this early on because in college, when I found out early on, when I was in college and had a job, I worked at a pizza place, I had my own apartment. Well, I had an apartment with a roommate, but like I was bringing in regularly good money when I was in college, right? And I had no women. And that was partially because I was not confident in myself. And therefore, that exuded out to the women I was trying to go after, because if I'm not feeling confident, they can feel I'm not confident. It makes them wonder why I'm not confident, and they don't date me. And then I had times when I got older where I had next to no money and all the confidence in the world. And as a result of that confidence, women would still date me in spite of not having a car, in spite of being broke or not having a lot of money. And so what I realized is that if I was a guy that was highly confident in himself and I was indifferent, i.e. not getting butthurt based on decisions that she made, whether she wanted to see me or not, whether she wanted to flake on a date or not, whether she wanted to show up or not, whether she wanted to continue to date me or not. If I was just kind of like, okay, well, you do you, then I found that by default of that attitude was so different from the other guys that were probably going after her that it made me by default a candidate that was more inclined to get her attracted to me. To whereby, let's say I was like the broke dude on somebody's couch and didn't have a lot of money coming in. Well, I also wasn't trying to like constantly text them all the time or constantly be on them. They have to date me all the time. And so they'd go back out and try to date other guys that were doing all that stuff and be like, maybe he doesn't have a lot of money, but he made me feel great. And he's not hounding me. He's not trying to get me to get into a relationship with him so quickly. And that made them say, you know what? I'll go ahead and give this guy a shot. Like, he doesn't have a lot of money. He's broke. He's, doesn't want kids or whatever. But you know what? I still feel like there could be a thing here. So I'll give it a shot. And that resulted in me having like a lot of good long-term relationships with girls, So it goes back to, but I wasn't forcing them to have to change up their program. If some girl comes to me and said, hey, you know what? You're 5'9.5", and I only date six guys that are 6 feet or higher, I'd be like, okay, so you want to go like watch TV, or you want to go bowling, or you want to go back to this party and just whatever. And I would just chat them up like, I don't have a shot. I don't give a crap. I'm going to just talk to her like regular. And that attitude, like I just brushed off like your rule is silly. If you want to live by that rule, that's some dumb crap you want to do, but that's totally fine. It's like, oh my God, he didn't fall for it. And that's the thing, is that a lot of that is bait. A lot of that is like, if I tell the guy I have a rule, is he going to take the bait and then try to like negotiate with me and try to change my mind as to why he shouldn't have that rule? But in the moment, you're actually disrespecting the current rule she has. Now, if you decide to ignore it altogether and just let her have that rule, then you'll find she's like, oh, now I'm more open to change my rule. Here's the other thing, is that, funny enough, a lot of women these days don't like being told what to do. So if she has set up a rule for herself and you come along and you impress her enough to where she's like really like wanting to get with you, she's going to be thinking to herself, but I have this rule. And then she's going to think, subconscious, why do I have this rule? Why are you not allowing me to do what I want to do? I want to see this guy. You, self, can't make me not see this guy. I'm going to see him. And so she's basically like telling off herself about her own rules in an attempt to be able to convince her other self that she should be able to see you. And that's all without you having to do anything other than being indifferent, being patient, but being confident that you are deservingly right to date whoever you want to date. And that, I found, is the easiest way to get her to change her rules, is by not being the one that makes her change her rules, because ultimately it has to be her decision. If she makes her own decision to change her rules, then you can't have any pushback later. But if you try to force her to change her rules, later she'll be like, see, I knew I shouldn't have dated you because blah, blah, blah. You didn't have this, but it's your fault because you convinced her to change her rules. You not being the one to make her change her rules means you can't be blamed later if she decides she made a bad choice. So hopefully, guys, that helps you out. So now I got a few more questions I'm going to answer. I got a question in the chat here. And the question is, let me get a drink of water first. I've been talking a lot. Delicious. So anyway, I got a question in the chat. And the question is, how much time should introverts spend on women versus on their personal goals and ambitions? Well, here's the thing, guy, is that you should only be spending time on women when you're asking them out, and when you're in front of them. That's literally it. So for example, let's say you're doing dating apps, right? At the time that I'm on the dating app, I'm swiping to hopefully get a match. If I get a match, I spend time talking to them, learning about their interests, and asking them on a date. Once I'm off the dating app, I go do other stuff. If I set a date on a dating app like, hey, today's Tuesday, right? So if I say, hey, let's meet up on Thursday. Okay, great, I'll see you Thursday. Boom. Now, I immediately plan out the date and I figure out where we're going to go and the time and stuff like that. But I discuss that with her on the dating app. And then I go about my life. I create ebooks, I do the show, and I don't think about her again until the day of the date. When I'm on the date, I put it all on her. I'm focusing on conversation, making her laugh, learning more about her, her likes or dislikes, what she wants to do in the future, what things she finds fun, etc. End of the day, had a great time, hug, I go home. That's it. I literally don't think about her again until I'm ready to ask her out. I tell you guys to wait a minimum of 4 days between dates to ask her out. So in that 4 days, I might possibly look up like another potential like date spot, and that's about it. I really don't spend an exorbitant amount of time thinking about any particular woman that I'm trying to get with or date when I'm not in front of them, other than to think about what she say on the last date and then where can I take her for another date, And sporadically, you might want to look up, hey, what things to talk about on dates in case you're a person, like if you're an introvert that has a hard time thinking up things to say on dates, then you would like look up, okay, what are some topics of conversation, things I could ask her. But you want to get to the point where you're really focusing more so on your goals, because what you'll find is this: if you're focusing on your goals, your personal goals and your ambitions, when you're not in her presence, you will have that to talk about with her when you finally see her. And women want to hear about what your goals and ambitions are and that you're actively pursuing them. And, the meeting you had that's going to allow you to possibly get some money in, or a contract you just got, or a new thing you're starting that you've always wanted to do in your life. And the fact that she's seeing you actually do that is great, because many women date guys who are just talking about doing things and not actually doing things. So the fact that you're a doer is going to attract her. And all about in these first 3 months are doing things and having conversations with her that are going to allow her to see us as a viable candidate and attract her to where we bump up her interest at a very high level. All right. So that's what your job is. Her job is to be the one thinking about you nonstop and talking to her girlfriends and getting the butterflies, because she needs to experience all of that in order to build up a high interest in you faster. You don't need to do that. You already know after 1 or 2 dates that you have a high interest, that you want to hook up with her. So you trying to concentrate more on that by doing extra texting and doing extra dates is not going to help you. Her doing that is going to help her interest. Your interest is already high enough to where you don't need to do that. So yeah, the more you can concentrate on your goals and stuff like that when you're not around her, it's going to be a lot better for you in the long run. So hopefully that answers your question. So let's get to a few more questions here. I'm going to probably go another 15 minutes before I get out of here. So like I said, if you guys have any other questions for me, you can ask them in the chat. The same person says, really, women want communication. But that goes into, again, you have to understand, like, I was going to do a whole show with this actually, but like the way in which men think women think they need communication is completely different from how we're interpreting it. We hear from women, they want communication. And what we think is that means they want to hear from us all the time by way of texting and talking and verbally talking with them and seeing them all the time. And that's not what that means. And here's the thing, and I talked about this before on the show, is that a woman having a want for something is oftentimes more important than actually getting that thing. So to your point about needing communication and attention, yeah, in the beginning, in the early stages of dating, women are going to want that with you. But one, they have other things they're doing outside of you when they're dating. So you're thinking, I should text them all the time. And she's thinking, I got work, I got family, I got car rides, I got other things that I'm trying to do. I got my own goals and dreams. And so realistically, I want to talk to the guy, but I can't have him interrupting my flow of my day because A, we just met. And also I'm trying to do things also. And I have a life outside of just him. And I think the problem most guys have is we assume after 1 or 2 good dates that we now need to automatically thrust ourselves into her entire world. She doesn't want us to be in her entire world yet. She wants to earn that. And that goes to the other part, which is women want to earn more communication from you and earn more attention from you. This is why waiting 4 to 5 days between dates is so powerful, because it's making her wait for your attention, and it's making her realize, you know what? It's the beginning of the things. I don't expect them to be all the way on me yet, but I could need to do more stuff on my end to earn more of his attention. And also, I really want his attention. And it's that wanting of your attention that's going to cause her to have a higher interest build faster than you giving her attention all the time. So hopefully that answers that question. So anyway, let's get on to another comment that I got on here. So actually I wanted to tack this onto the segment that we just did about women changing their dating rules. There's a guy that left a comment under one of my videos, and he said, a lot of what Harry says is very true. I've also noticed that an emotionally confident woman won't need you to call or text as much after dating a few that were bugging me about not texting or calling enough. He said, I purposely didn't do that with my current girl just to see how she would respond, and she passed. The woman I'm currently dating is like this. I reached out to her 2 days after our first date and set up a date 5 days after our first date. She was very excited to see me. You don't have to do everything perfect, but really try to space out your dates and attention early on. If she's interested, it'll only make her want to see you more. Trust me. It's true that high interest cuts everything, but you shouldn't take advantage of that and blow her up with attention every day either. So to his point, like I said, like Doc Love said, high interest cuts everything, which means, yes, a woman that is highly interested in you, you could contact her every day, and there's a chance that she'll probably be happy to receive that and not be completely butthurt by it. But because I teach you guys about the probability of things, realistically, the probability that you being able to contact a girl every day and have her keep her interest, it's very, very low. More often than not, in the beginning, the more you contact, the more likely it is she's going to start to lose interest. But yeah, this, like I said right here, like this girl didn't mind that he waited 5 days between dates to take her out again. And he was able to wait a little bit before contacting her after that first date, because again, women are willing to change their rules if they have a high interest. And you guys got to start practicing this. And I know it's hard, because here's the thing. I tell you guys, hey, practice some of the things I'm talking about. But if you're a guy that doesn't have an abundance mindset and perceives himself as not having a lot of chances to get things right with women, then you're going to feel like you don't want to practice this stuff, because let's say you finally do get a girl that wants to go out with you. Well, it doesn't come along every day. So God forbid you try something that I'm telling you and it doesn't work. Now you've lost that chance. And who's to say that another girl's going to come along? I'm telling you, I'm 41. Another woman will come along. But to the point, if you don't start, you have to date and know that there's always going to be a risk that you're going to lose the girl, right? But you got to ask yourself, are the things you're doing right now causing you to keep women or lose women? If the things you're doing right now are more often than not causing you to lose women, then there's no harm in trying something else that could potentially make you lose a woman. But it could also have a better chance of making you keep the woman. So you actually err better on trying the new thing, because let's say you try both things. If you try the thing you're doing now that you always do, you're going to lose the woman. If you try the new thing, you're going to lose the woman. But there's also plenty of evidence to back up that you're probably going to have a better chance of keeping her if you do the new thing. So practice the new thing and see what happens. Worst case scenario is you end up with the same result that you're getting right now. But more often than not, you do more newer stuff that's better, you're going to get better results. Just saying. So let's see. So I got a comment from this guy here, and he said, men are so confused about dating nowadays. If you want to know if she's interested, propose a date and you'll get an answer real fast. I think a lot of men also believe that they need to wait around for some woman to magically appear in their lives or use a dating app because they don't want to bother women in real life. No, if you want a girlfriend, then start learning to approach and make a move. That is exactly how I found my girlfriend, and now she's completely swooned over me. Men seem to be so intimidated by the possible rejection of one random girl that they don't even try. Confidence is your superpower with women. It works every time. So yeah, I like this guy's comment because it really talks about the fact that the only true test to know for sure if you did a good job on a date is to ask for another date and have her say yes. And I stress this because so many men are like, okay, I took her on a date and I don't know if she's still interested, so I got to text her a lot and call a lot, blah, blah, blah. And they're thinking that they need to do all these things between asking her for the next date in order to keep her interest. And then they start getting butthurt when, like, you know, the girl's not texting as much or not responding back as easily. And it's like the real tell for if she had a good time with you on a date is you wait a couple of days, you ask for that next date, and she either says yes or gives you a bunch of other excuses that are basically no, all right? But that's the only way you can tell. So you guys that are trying to spend days on it, like worrying, like, I don't know if I did a good job on the date. Did she like me? Did I do a good job? Dude, Make it easy on yourself. Take the stress away and just wait until you ask her on the next date to see if she had a good time on the first date. That's how you really tell. And then after that date, you know if she had a good time on the second date when you ask her for the third date, and so forth and so on. And if she keeps saying yes to you every time, you'll know that the previous thing you did must have been good because she's still saying yes. So hopefully that helps that guy out. But I like this comment a lot. Okay, let's see. I got a question in the chat. And the question is, hey, coach, how much of a red flag is it when a 10 out of 10 woman is playful and Fane kisses you when I just know her that day? I can't, it's worded weird. I'm assuming you're meaning, okay. So how much of a red flag is it when a 10 out of 10 woman is playful and leans in to kiss you and then backs out? Well, for starters, get out of your head that there are 10 out of 10 women. Like, they do not exist. And I know that's probably a controversial thing to say, right? Like, how could there be no 10s? Here's the thing. Being a 10 is in everybody's head. Like, you go to a woman, you see her, and you're thinking, oh my God, she must be like a 10 out of 10. She's so gorgeous. She's so cute. Almost no woman ever thinks that she's a 10 out of 10. Even the ones you think are the most gorgeous in the world, or like your Beyoncé's, your Rihanna's, your Shakira's, whatever. Like, they know when they go home, they sit on the toilet like everybody else. They have things they're picking at. They have skin scabs. They're getting off their bodies and stuff like that. Like, most women across the board, if you legitimately ask them, they might know that they're pretty. They don't think they're 10s. And so, but I'm pointing this out because as men, we get in our head thinking we're judging them based on their looks. And if we view them as the physical kind of woman we want, we just attach a 10 to them, not being aware that in their minds, they're not 10s. And they're walking around wondering, why are people treating me with such, like, putting me on such a high pedestal when I think I'm good, but I'm not that great? And I need you as a guy to start seeing women the way they see themselves. And the way they see themselves is, I'm imperfect. I have imperfections. I'm not this, I have my own things that I deal with either mentally or physically or whatever. And so you need to basically have the same realistic viewpoint of women as most women have of themselves. That way you will not be intimidated or putting women on a pedestal when you talk to them. Like today, I can go out and see like a 10 out of 10 woman, and my first thought is like, but she's probably got like emotional issues, probably has family trauma. She probably farts really bad. I had a roommate in college that everybody thought was like a 10 out of 10. And I lived with her, and people were like, how could you not date her? She's like so hot, so fine. How are you not tempted to sleep with her all the time? This chick had the worst irritable bowel syndrome I've ever seen in my life. I mean, seen because she would go to the bathroom and then like not flush the toilet, and I would see that. So that taught me a very important lesson, which was these 10 out of 10s that people think are like high 10s, on their day-to-day, they're not acting like 10s, dog, real talk. So first thing is to get that out of your head. Put her down on a realistic plane, that she is just a human like everybody else, and that, yes, she's attracted. That's your lusty hormones that are using that in an attempt to try to want to get with her and procreate with her, all right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, though, is that if she leans in and then backs out, why is this a big deal? Like, real talk, if she's leaning in and then backing out, you can make a joke about it, like, oh, that's cool. You weren't ready for this anyway. Like, make a joke about it. You're trying to, because here's this, that when she does that, a part of her subconsciously is like, he's going to react like all these other guys and get flustered and be like, no, come back and kiss me, blah, 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 blah. So if you're able to just sit there and be like, oh, yeah, right. Like, I don't know, your breath probably sounds like it was kicking anyway. Or it's a good thing you leaned back because you might not be the best kisser. So you did me a favor. Appreciate it. Like, when you joke with her like that, now she's like, oh, this guy's playful. And he set up a challenge. Well, I think I will kiss him. So you got to treat it like not a big deal, dog. You got to treat it like it's just whether she kisses you or not. Again, this goes back to what I talk about all the time. Indifference. How she decides to act around you, you cannot let that bug you. You can't let it like jolt you out of your state of mind. You can't let it ruin your state of being in the moment. Just be playful with it. Like, oh, you didn't kiss me? Okay, well, big deal. Yeah, I bet your mom would kiss me. Like whatever you got to do. But don't have it be like such a monumental thing. The fact that you're asking the question indicates you're treating it like a monumental thing. Like, oh, she leaned in and then she didn't kiss me. Like, what does that mean? And how should I read that? This should not even be on your radar. This should be like, this happens to me all the time. Girls try to lean in and want to kiss me all the time. Half the time I push them away. Like, that should be your general attitude about this kind of stuff. Just saying. Let's see. Moving on here. This guy says, okay, so I had a guy comment under my "she's still legally married" video, and that's a video I did where I talked about how if a woman's still legally married, then ideally you're dating her, but you're not. Well, not ideally. If you're dating a girl and you find out she's legally still married, then you ultimately don't want to try to make that a serious thing. Like until she starts getting paperwork signed and going through the ins and outs of actually breaking up with her husband, then you're not trying to have this be a real relationship. So anyway, this guy said, she might say that, but it's unlikely, especially if she's a narcissist like my ex-girlfriend. So his ex-girlfriend, she promised to get divorced in 6 to 12 months when we first got together, but never got divorced the whole 3.5 years we were together. It was long distance, but now she's run off with her ex-boyfriend from 15 years ago and seems to be making moves to divorce. It's money motivated. This guy's the $600,000 condo in the West Loop of Chicago. Well, for one, woman's trash, so it is what it is. But more importantly, a few things here. For starters, you were with her for 3.5 years and she didn't get a divorce. So what that tells me is that you went into the situation trying to make this a relationship and trying to force her to do something. What I tell you guys on the show time and time again, you cannot force a woman to make decisions just because you want her to make them. So if this had been me in a situation, let's say I'm dating somebody and they're still legally married, for one, I would never agree to a relationship. I would just be like, at best, you know what? We're hookup buddies, we're friends with benefits, and I'm continuing to see other women that aren't married because I want to get with somebody that I know is not still married to somebody. And so at that point, she has a decision to make. She can decide of her own accord if she's cool with you just being a hookup buddy and that is what it is. Or if she's like, but I really like this guy and I actually want to be in a real relationship with him, then she can file some paperwork. But in the meantime, you don't feel bad about seeing other women or about hooking up with other women because she's still in a marriage. Like until that paperwork is signed, you do not at all sign up for a relationship with a married woman. At the point that she says, hey, the paperwork's in, here in California, even with paperwork, you got to wait 6 months, but at least you can be like, hey, the paperwork's in. I got to wait 6 months before it's done, but the paperwork is definitely in. There's no fights on this other person's end or on my end. And so we're good. Then you can decide, okay, it's 6 months, but I'm willing to call it a relationship for now because at least paperwork's signed. I know it's in the process. If it's not even processing, what are you even doing? So the fact that she went out with somebody else after all that, like, yeah, she's in her right to act like trash, but you can't be butthurt for a decision that you made to get into a relationship with a married woman that was at no time trying to get rid of her ex. What this also tells me is that, though, that you were trying to push the agenda, which means you were probably every other week or so, hey, so you're going to get divorced? Hey, so where are those papers? Hey, so what's going on? That makes you look weak. It puts her in their leadership position in the relationship, which most women don't want, and it makes you less appealing, less attractive, which is why you're now no longer with her. So all this to say, this is a bad choice from the start. It's your fault for getting in the relationship. She was already trash, and you should be out there seeking other women if you want to cause other situations like this. So hopefully this helps you out. Let's see. A guy in the comment says, he says, I see that's very insightful. Oh, in reference to the previous thing, he says, yes, I did say, oh, okay, you're not ready yet. And she kissed me on the cheek. Try to play cool, but it's driving me crazy what that means. And noted that all women are humans at the very end. And I know that it was lust at first sight, not love. So yeah, the whole thing is driving you crazy. Dude, I got news for you. If you ever think you're going to meet a woman that at no time is not going to drive you crazy, you will never get a woman. Because even the women that are the most sane, that are the most seemingly down to earth, that are the unicorns in the sky, that know how to think on a guy's level and know how to interact with guys in a real way, they are still going to do things that drive you crazy. They're going to leave crumbs on the table one day, or they're going to leave bras around the house for no reason, or they're going to put something down and forget to pick it up later, or they're going to, be talking on the phone with their girlfriends or scrolling on the phone. Like there's going to be a plethora of things that women are going to do to drive you crazy. Ideally, you're a stoic enough guy to where you learn not to let too many things bug you. But yeah, women just by being a different sex are going to bring things to your relationship that are going to drive you nuts initially. You got to get used to it. And that could include doing some flirty stuff. Hey, there'll be women that'll do this, right? You'll be in a full-on relationship and she'll be flirting with you before you go to bed. And then you're thinking, okay, it's time to go do some bedroom stuff. And then they'll be like, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. You're going to be mad about that? You're going to be driven crazy by that? Because that's going to happen. And that's just one example. But women are going to do that. But hey, we also do stuff to women that probably drives them crazy all the time that they got to get used to. It just, in a relationship, you learn the ebbs and flows of that, and you learn to give the other person grace and know that coming in that you're going to be accepting that part of them. But to expect it to never happen, it's always going to happen at some point. Anyway, I'm going to respond to one more message, and then I'll be out of here for the day. So let's see which one to respond to. Okay, this is a good question. So this guy writes a comment. He said, I've started watching you here recently, and whatever video this was under sums up his current situation. He said, it completely changed how I approach dating. We met, we went on a date. The date went great. I made plans for a second date. She drove 2 hours for the second date. It went great again. Now she's driving another 2 hours on Sunday to stay at my place, and we're going to a movie on Monday night. For what I'll say this, that's kudos, but this sounds like it's very, very long distance. I've been in relationships where you do that hour and a half to 2 hour drive. I hope you got a lot of gas money is all I'm going to say, because it can work out, but you got to have a lot of gas money in advance. At least she's coming to you. Like the fact that you're going to her and she's coming to you, that's a very good sign that she's willing to put in her half. So that's, I give her props for that. All right. That said, the whole, like, you've gone on 2 dates. Now she's coming over Sunday to stay at your place and do a Monday movie night. Like that's a lot to do in the beginning. So just be careful of, like, if you're doing this kind of date, you might want to wait like another week before you ask her on another date, because this is a lot to do in the beginning. But anyway, so he says, it gets hard at times wanting to talk or wanting to just have that sense of security, but she comes to me, she'll send a text, hey, can't wait to see you soon, etc. My question to all of this is, how do you combat the anxiety of actually liking this girl and wanting more from this girl, but not breaking the tendencies you've established that have created a space where you found success? I love this question. So basically saying, like, he's used to being that guy that's texting all the time, or he's wanting her to text him, so he has a sense of security that he's still keeping her interest and that she still likes him enough, right? And so there's an in-between here where it's like what I call a transitional phase, where it's like, as a guy, you're learning these new things, right? Oh, you're welcome in the chat. So when you're transitioning from doing old stuff that you were doing that wasn't working to trying new stuff, you're going to find there's going to be a situation where you're trying this new stuff and you're seeing it actively work. You're seeing that you're not texting her a lot, and as a result, she's texting you more. You're getting hookups faster, and it's great. But the problem is, these are new habits. You have years of bad habits that, for better or for worse, you feel comfortable doing. They weren't helping you, but you're comfortable in the motions of doing them. And so what happens is, when you're doing these new habits, even if they're working a lot better, a part of you subconsciously is still wanting to go back to older habits because they work. That's why sometimes, like, you'll read my stuff or you'll read some other guru stuff and you find out that it actually works. And then as soon as it works, you go back to doing the old stuff that wasn't working, because you have more of a history of doing the older stuff that wasn't getting you the good results, but it feels comfortable for you to do. And so the best advice I can give you is this, is that is a normal part of the process. When you're doing new things, it's kind of like, I watched the video, I was watching The Bachelorette, and this guy took this girl on a date to go sewing, which is not masculine at all. But the point is, but in sewing, I realized, you have pros there that just loop, 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 loop. But in teaching her how to sew, it's like one loop at a time. Okay, we got that one. Now do this next loop over here, get this in there. And you continue to do that as a slow process until you get good at it and your hands get the motions down to where you're breaking out shortcut, you're doing this faster. And so you'll find that's what happens, is that as you start to do the right stuff and get more good results, and you keep practicing that more, that your brain will shortcut to where these new things now feel like the things to do that also feel more comfortable than the older things. And so the best advice I can give you is, you just got to keep observing that when you're doing these new things, they're actually working, and that as you do them over time, you have to trust that that'll become the new habit that not only feels good, but feels good in part because it actually works, versus stuff you're doing before where it felt good, but you weren't getting the results that you wanted, right? And so, yeah, it's one of those things, like, I can give all the advice in the world about, well, do this thing, blah, 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 blah. But it boils down to also, as you habitually do it more and more, you'll be trusting of yourself that this process works, and you'll become less anxious as a result. So it just takes time. Some of the stuff that I teach you guys, it's just going to take time to feel as if it's comfortable for you to do. And you got to just know that time's coming. So just, if you see the thing that's working, keep doing that thing. And inevitably you'll be less anxious about it because you'll done it so much. Like me at 41, the things I'm telling you to do are things that I was practicing at 25 that I was nervous as heck about doing. But I've had enough evidence over time to see these things actually work, right? So hopefully, guys, this helps you out. So that's all I got for today, guys. Sorry for the interruption in stream. I think from now on, I'm going to be trying to stream more so from my laptop. The desktop was working great last week, so I don't know what problems I was having this week, but I'll be sure to do that. But thank you guys that tuned in or tuned back in to watch this show. As always, guys, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com for ebooks, audiobooks, coaching, programs, etc., as well as my pretty popular album, Kevin Samuels Was Right. If you want to hear some musical tunes from me, one of the tunes you'll hear at the very end when you see the credits roll. But thank you guys for watching this, and I will catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.
Call this beat Will Smith, cause it slaps hard.